Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of Just Beyond the Basics with Magic Strategy. Today's episode we're talking about combo decks, and we're actually going to use a deck that a year or two ago was really popular amongst a lot of circles. We loved the deck. We helped refine it the way we liked it. We collaborated on it, worked together, and it's, by today's standards, a modern combo deck. And it is specifically a black and blue Heartless Lich deck. Why does it have the Heartless Lich? Because of the two glorious cards, Heartless Summoning and Havengold Lich. Anyways, of course, Havengold Lich, 3 casting cost, 1 blue, 1 black, and it's 4/4 zombie wizard. Anyways, no legendary on this one, which is awesome, and it'll become clear later. Anyways, its ability: 1 colorless to activate this activated ability, and you may cast target creature card from a graveyard, that's including yours and your opponent's, this turn. When you cast that card this turn, Havengold Lich gains all activated abilities of that card until end of turn. And then we got Heartless Summoning, which 1 black, 1 colorless enchantment. Creature spells you cast cost 2 colorless less to cast, but creatures you control get -1/-1. And so it's an amazing combo because you can cast creatures from any graveyard just by activating 1 mana of any color, and then it actually costs cheaper because of Heartless Summoning. And we'll show you this is what combo decks are made of. A good combo, and it just plays off of this. Now, going forward, I have 2 other cards in here that actually help to speed things up. That way we can get the deck going. The first one is Grand Architect. 2 blue, 1 colorless. It is a 1/3, so a nice fat butt for if you need to block something. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. Activated ability: target artifact becomes blue until end of turn. And then its last ability: tap an untapped blue creature you control to activate this ability and add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Now, the reason why this is important is because the activation cost, this card, tap an untapped blue creature you control. If you actually look really close at the wording, there is no symbol of tapping, and this picture sucks. But there is no tapping symbol. With it being no tapping symbol, this card itself, when it comes into play, even though it has summoning sickness, the ability can tap itself already so that you can use 2 colorless for any artifact, which is why that is amazing. And when you combine it again with Heartless Summoning now, all of a sudden you're able to play this, you can tap it, and you can play artifact spells much cheaper. I think you get the hint that we're going artifacts with this. And the next card in here that we have to help speed everything up is Chief Engineer, 1 blue, 1 colorless. Artifact spells you cast have Convoke. And of course, Convoke, for those who don't remember what that is, your creatures can help cast those spells. Each creature you tap while casting an artifact spell pays for 1 colorless or 1 mana of that creature's color, which is amazing. That means even if it is an artifact that has a color that you don't need, that's not black and blue, you can still cast it with this guy here by tapping an artifact you got. That's how awesome this is. Now, in this deck, you have 4 of each of these guys. So there's a total of 16. There's a good chance you'll have 1 in your opening hand, guaranteed, and you'll draw another one within the next turn or 2, going off of ratios, which is very important when you're trying to get things going and build up synergy fast. Because then you get to play stuff like, bam, Mersuperion. Like 2 colorless, spend only mana produced by creatures to cast Mersuperion. But guess what? With Heartless Summoning, if it costs 2 colorless less, you can play it for free. That's a 5/6 that with -1/-1 becomes a 4/5 for free on turn 2. That's amazing. And with Grand Architect, you could easily play it, tap itself, and play it right on turn 3 because that's the turn you got to be able to play Grand Architect. So again, up against aggro decks that are trying to burn you, trying to go fast, bam, you got a creature with a nice fat butt that they just have a hard time dealing with. What's also great is you got Perilous Myrrh. Again, 2 colorless for a 1/1. So with Heartless Summoning, it costs nothing and it instantly dies. And when it goes to the graveyard, when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Can you say a free shock at it's sorcery speed, but it's a free shock. But here's the great thing. With Heaven Gold Lich, you can then 1 colorless and you can cast this for free when you have Heartless Summoning out. So all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times you activate that. You just keep going and going. Target all their creatures, target straight to the head. Any planeswalker that's out there because it's target player. Bam, it's straight damage for free after you have this combo out, or not for free, for 1 mana each time. What's great about this is you can then get other cards off, like Solemn Simulacrum. Solemn Simulacrum is a great card, 4 casting costs, 2/2, so it becomes a 1/1. Enters the battlefield, search your library for basic land, put it into play. Tapped. And then when it dies, you draw a card. It's great either way. It comes into play, it's easier for your opponent to kill, and you get stuff either way when it comes into play, when it dies. It's amazing. And cards like this are incredible because that's when you get combos like Treasure Mage, which come up. 2 colorless, 1 blue for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 6 or greater. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. So you got Heartless Summoning out on turn 2. Turn 3, you're able to drop this guy. And then you search your deck for what? Wormcoil, the Motherlode. You know, this guy. And because you already have Heartless Summoning out, it costs 4 to cast now. And so you got a 5/5 Death Touch Lifelink that when it dies, you get 2 tokens, both of them at which are 2/2s, not 3/3s, but they each have Death Touch and Lifelink each.
But we can remedy that with one of the early cards we talked about.
Bam.
Grand Architect.
Grand Architect. Because again, other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. Well, guess what? All you have to do is tap 1 blue. Bam, they're blue creatures. They go back up to regular power if you need them for life or damage. You name it.
Instant speed, change it during combat.
Yep, exactly. And then, last but not least, this helps to just take the cake. We got 2 lovely cards, Phantasmal Image and Phyrexian Metamorph. Alright, Phantasmal Image is a illusion. 1 blue, 1 colorless, and basically costs 1 blue when you got Heartless Summoning out. And remember, you get to cast this from your graveyard for 1 activation and a blue if you still have Heartless Summoning out. And so you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield except it's an illusion in addition to its other types, and it gains when this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability. Sacrifice it. Well, guess what you're targeting all the time? Wormcoil. Why? Because, well, guess what? As soon as it dies, the target of any spell or ability, bam, you get tokens out of it. Every single time it dies, and, well, guess what?
It's hard for your opponent to get rid of that fatty.
Exactly. And what's amazing about it is with Phantasmal Image, you just have 1 Wormcoil on the field. 1 blue mana, you play it. Well, guess what? 1 extra mana, you pop Perilous Myrrh, target Phantasmal Image, pop, it goes away, bam, you get 2 tokens if you wanted to do that, which you can, which I've had to do on a couple of times to win a tournament. And then, of course, you got Phyrexian Metamorph. Why is it great? 3 colorless, 1 Phyrexian blue mana. And again, you may have Phyrexian Metamorph enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. And because it already has a blue, it's already blue. So when you have Grand Architect out, it already gets the +1/+1, so you don't have to worry about the -1/-1 from Heartless Summoning. So you all of a sudden get And what's great about these cards is these cards are copies. There's been times where I've had to copy somebody's Gristle brand because I needed to win. There's been times when I've copied people, you name it, like any artifact they have on the field. You know, you can copy it and you can duplicate it. And it's now your copy. What's even better is because if it's artifacts we're talking about, well, guess what? With the Convoke, you get it now. If it's in your opponent's side of the graveyard, it doesn't matter if it's a color of any kind. You can bring it back to the field, period, on your side. There's actually games I've won where I had to pull back their Snapcaster Mage in their graveyard so that I could flash back something from my side, something that I sideboarded into my deck at the time, so that I could counter the right spell at the right time. And guess what? I got to do that for one colorless, and because of Heartless Summoning out, one blue, I get to cast it from their graveyard into my side of the field. It dies instantly, but it gives me the opportunity to flash back a counter spell right on top of the stack. And so this deck actually doesn't have any spells in it that are instants or sorceries that are not in the sideboard. And that's because with the deck to run as effectively as it needs to, it can't justify the expenditure in mana and in space inside the deck because you have a very fine ratio inside your deck you have to keep a balance of. But this is a great example of every deck. And if you ever have, and again, you know, it's like to help speed things along, we got, of course, it's a bunch of blue and swamps, but then we got polluted deltas. Polluted deltas, instantly, you search through your graveyard, you can go through, search for a watery grave, which is an island swamp, you can instantly bring out, and guess what? If you need to get life yourself or do something yourself, that's why Phyrexia's Core is in there. Phyrexia's Core is a very nice answer to sacrifice your artifact. You gain 1 life. Well, guess what? If you need to draw 1 extra card, well, guess what? You just sacrifice your soul into Simulacrum. You know, there you go. You know, and if you don't have Heartless Summoning out, you still got this guy. Well, guess what? You can pop this guy with this, gain a life, and it's kind of an answer to if you seem to be stalling somewhere in between, or if they have an answer for your enchantments. And so, anyways, this is a great example of, you can see where we get excited about this deck. You know, this is a fun deck. I've won several tournaments because of it. I've actually had people I've played, and they actually come to me on an FNM. It's like, are you playing, you know, in a modern tournament, are you playing with that with that Wormcoil deck of yours? Like, yes, I forfeit. You know, it's like the easiest sweep I've ever had. You know, it's like, and this is, now granted, some of these cards aren't exactly cheap, you know, but this was a great example to show you guys how to actually get things going off. Anyways, we're almost out of time here. Thanks again for joining us. Again, if you liked what we said, have any critiques, if we were going too fast, if we need to go longer, let us know. If you like us, give us a thumbs up. If you don't like us, give us a thumb down and tell us why you didn't like us, what we could do better. You know, any news is good news. And so, anyways, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time when we talk about controls.
That'll be fun.